afternoon, everyone. My name is Josh Defoe. I am a sergeant with the San Diego Police Department. I run what is called our mass threat unit. So what we do is we provide training and guidance to folks, mostly related to workplace violence and active shooter related incidents. I would start by saying there's really a very small chance that this is going to happen here, but I go to a lot of businesses, a lot of schools, a lot of houses of worship, and we just kind of talk about kind of how to prepare if something was to happen. So today's talk is going to be more directed toward, I guess most of you work here?
Worker volunteers.
Worker volunteers, okay, so it's more directed to you. There'll be some things that if I ended up coming back again and presenting, let's say to the general public that I would say again, but this is more just for things for you guys to kind of think about. I assume we have maybe are there some teachers as well from the kids over here? Okay, so some for you guys also. I came out here maybe about a month ago, I guess, and I took a walk around. I saw what you guys have here. Very similar to many of the other places that I go to, and a lot of the same kind of problems or, I don't say problems, but issues face you guys that face everybody else. So I would just start off by, so this is just the definition of an active shooter, if we were to look it up in the news, okay, or online. And it's somebody actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a populated area. They say they usually use firearms, and there isn't any pattern or method to how they select their victims. So first we talk for you guys about who might do these sort of things, okay? So we talk about, not that fast. All right, so the first we talk about, and this is wherever I go also, is an employee, all right? In a typical business out there, it's most of the times it's an employee. So we talk about, for you guys, the kind of the things to be looking for, and not necessarily with the people that work here, but just really in general. Stuff that kind of, they call them precursors, or even it's something called leakage, where people say or they broadcast their intentions before it actually happens, okay? And some kind of signs and indicators are things like, maybe they're absent from work a lot, okay? They're not coming into work, or they really get upset about changes that you guys have done in policy and procedure, like really over the top, like, for no reason. Some other really big ones, so domestic violence, and I think I have that on there. So that is another really big one. Potential, especially for the folks that take care of the kids, some sort of maybe child custody issue where the parents are not getting along. Maybe somebody even has a restraining order against somebody that you might know about or you might not. And then there could be problems during that custody exchange or with the children. We've seen that a number of times as well. Kind of staying with the employee though, so things that get posted on social media, okay? So not necessarily, we'll get to the folks here at the bottom in a second, but employees complaining about their boss. Man, I have to work again this weekend, I'm always having to work, and it's really getting on me, and I'm gonna have to do something about it, okay? And so we talked too about if you guys saw something on social media like that, even at your regular jobs, if someone said, man, my boss is driving me nuts, he's gonna get it. Okay, and you guys were to call the police, what could we do about that? So that's not a crime to say something like that. Okay, that isn't in our book of codes that we use to determine what somebody can go to jail for and what they can't. Saying they're going to get it someday is too vague. Now, if they said, I'm going to come here tomorrow and I'm going to have a gun and I'm going to shoot the place, that's a different story. They can go to jail for that. But if you were to see something on social media somewhere, or somebody that you work with, or even someone who comes here was to say, man, I'm getting really upset about changes or something happening here, you would want to let somebody know about that. So I don't know if you guys have any sort of employee, like at bigger companies, let's say like Qualcomm, okay, they have an employee assistance program where there's folks that you can tell, hey, I think the person that I'm working with is having some problems. I don't want to get them in trouble, but I also want to make sure they get some help. So I guess, even if you don't have that, just letting somebody know that you're concerned about somebody that you guys are dealing with. And of course, unfortunately, we have these last couple of ones here. So the homegrown extremists, okay, that's what we saw in the Poway tragedy a few weeks ago, okay? These folks who are upset about whatever perceived injustice they have had in life, and they're upset and they want to do something about that, okay? And probably to a much lesser extent, any sort of terrorism nexus. So I go to a lot of places like SeaWorld or the Midway, or large open spaces where unfortunately terrorists might want to come and attack. Yesterday I was at Belmont Park, or the roller coasters. So they were asking me, hey, what if something happened here? What would we do? So all kinds of, unfortunately, like things we have to think about out there, or people that we have to be aware of. we would talk about what training you guys have. Okay, so what training you guys get as employees. So, we talk about having an emergency action plan. So what is the plan if something happens here? And I know that they're working on it. I saw a partial copy of it. It's a difficult process. There's lots of things that need to go in it, besides, a tragedy like this, it's for earthquakes or fires or a gas leak. I mean, there's a number of other things that would go in this plan. It's not just for if something, terrible happened here. But having a plan and then everybody being aware of what they're supposed to do in that plan is really important. And for everybody, what you would be expected to do if something happened. So whenever I present to the public, let's say you guys were all employees of Nike, and I was talking to you about what you were going to do here at work. I would also say it's not, this stuff isn't just for here at work, right? It's for if you're at the mall or the movies or your kid's school or anywhere. So we typically talk about what the Department of Homeland Security says as far as training, and that is run, hide, fight. And it's said a bunch of different ways out there. You could look it up, and it's called avoid, deny, defend. It's called get out, hide out, take out, but it's all basically the same thing, okay? And the first thing that we would tell you guys is to try to get out of wherever you work, okay? So that would be your best bet. Try to get out. So knowing the ways out of this building, and especially knowing more than one way. So we find a lot of times that people, let's say they go to work, they always go through the same door and they go out that same door. So if something bad ever happens, they've never really thought about any other ways to get out of their business. Now here you're like, I can see, gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are a lot of exits here. There's 9 exits I can see that go right out here. So that's way atypical of where I go. But let's say you were working back here, right, in one of the classrooms. Like, where might you guys go? So we talk about, knowing your exits, and that exit might be a window. So if you have kids over there, and for some reason it wasn't safe to come out into the hallway, something was happening out there, you guys could break that window and climb out that window. So, knowing what in your room could we break that window with, and I understand there's some very young children that you guys have. Do you guys have, is there typically only one teacher, or would there be 2 in a room? Just one? Okay, so, and we don't have to tell exactly these labs what we're doing. I mean, it's going to depend on how old they are, right? I mean, kids that are in maybe junior high and obviously high schoolers, and even to some extent maybe 7th, 5th, 6th, they understand what's going on in the world, right? They watch the TV, they hear the news, and they see. But, for some others, that's probably not going to be the case. We're not going to talk about exactly what's going to, something like this. So you may have to phrase it differently for them, but to have them have an idea about what's to be expected if something were to happen. There was an emergency out there and you guys had to leave. Hey, we may have to go out this window. So what you guys, again, have in your room that you could find that could possibly break that window and go out that way. And again, that would be if the danger was, out there and you were not able to go out into the hallway for some reason. And then along with this part, so I don't know why this picture this is from Homeland Security. This is their snapshot, but don't hide under a table. Okay, I don't know why they have that on there, right? That's not going to, if you go underneath this table, that is not going to help you. So when they talk about hiding, we talk about getting into a room and really barricading that door as best you can. Now I know that for the classrooms over here, you have those big windows, right? So yeah, so that's a problem. And we talked about that. We talked about and they're looking at a number of options to include, maybe curtains or a film or something. But that certainly is difficult, and it's not too different. I talked to a lot of businesses where their office buildings, it's all glass inside, right? Even the doors are glass, the windows are glass, and it's beautiful, but it's probably not the best unfortunately, for something like this. But nobody's building a building thinking something like this is going to happen. So finding a place to hide, again, if your room is conducive to it and it doesn't have a giant window, like say some of the offices over here, if you're able to go in there, so closing those doors. So look at how the doors open and close when you guys are walking around. Be thinking about it. If something happened and I wasn't where I normally work, right? Where could I go if I couldn't get out? So, some rooms, do the doors open to the inward, or did it open outward? So obviously if the door opens in, that is better for us because we can put things up against that door and hold that thing shut. If it opens out, that's going to be a lot harder, right? Because even if we put stuff in there, the door can still be open. How do the doors here lock? So can they be locked from the inside or the outside? So I go to a lot of schools where they have to go out into the hallway to lock the door if something is happening. So that is not our best bet, right? Because we don't want to be doing that. And there are things that they sell out there that can hold your door open while it's still locked. I don't know if you've ever seen any of them. They're like a little rubber sliding thing. Probably not as useful for you guys here. There are magnets that go along the doors that hold, so basically your door is locked, right? Except that all you have to do is remove that thing and then the door will be locked instead of you having to go into the hall and lock it. But how do your doors lock is really important. How they open and close, and then, you know, in your classrooms, if you had to, what is in there that you could push up against that doorway? So even, I've been to some schools where we walked around and we looked at, okay, there's, this isn't a good example, but let's say there's a bookcase over on that side of the room. Could we move that bookcase closer to the doorway, so if something happened, it's closer, right? All we have to do is push it by the door. We don't have to go all the way over there and get it and now bring it across the room. So just kind of when you guys go back to your classrooms, or really anywhere that you work in here, or in your regular lives, just be thinking about that. And unfortunately, that is part of it, is that we have to be thinking about how we find out about these things. So what we find too is that people, if there were gunshots somewhere around here, people don't believe that that's what they are. They think that maybe there's fireworks or it's a car backfiring. So people don't want to believe that something bad has happened. It's just our nature. So people don't, so they waste a lot of time kind of going to see what's happening, or maybe they're calling their friends, or they're calling the office instead of taking action right away. So you need to understand that if you guys are out somewhere, especially here, I worked a long time in the inner city where it was not uncommon to hear gunshots. Okay, it was just the way it was. That is not the case here. I have a wife who teaches at the high school, not too far away from here. There are no gunshots around here. Okay, there shouldn't be. And if you do hear those, like that is very serious. Like, what have we already thought about? What is our plan? What are we going to do? Okay, so kind of having something thought about. So, you know, if something were to happen, right? That's not the first time that we're thinking of what to do. Okay, I teach our officers at the police academy, and we teach them that if we've taught them a scenario in training, and they see it in real life, right, their brain doesn't have to come up with what to do. Oh, I remember when we were taught this in the police academy, I kind of know what to do. So same with you guys. If you never had any training that something happens, you wouldn't have any idea what am I doing, you know, with the kids or the doors or anything. So that's just kind of reviewing that a little bit, you know, what sort of training or what you guys would do if something like this happened. So again, run, hide, fight is kind of the universal thing that they talk about out there. And this also isn't in order, so we're not going to say first you're going to run, then you might hide, and then you might have to fight. So we might be hiding, and then the bad guy might be coming into where we are. So that's part of it too, is thinking about if we had to do something, we had to stop that person, what could we use to stop that person? I get a lot of questions people ask, what could I say to that person? They're coming in the door right now, and they want to harm us. What can we say to them to make them stop? Okay, and my answer would be there isn't anything you're going to be able to say to them, I don't think. I think the time for talking is over. The time is now. We need to do something. So we would look around and say, what can we use to defend ourselves? Okay, so the first thing I would grab, so a couple great things in here, I would say, so fire extinguishers are really good. Not only could we spray them in the face, but we could bonk them on the head if we had to, okay? I would say, hey, let's grab this microphone stand, this podium stand, right? We could hit them with that if we had to. You know, that podium up there. Anything at all that you guys might have. Now, I'm pretty sure that the mosque doesn't want a big armory of swords and knives in your room, so that won't be any good. But you have lots of other things just laying around, you know, sort of innocuous, innocent things that you could use if you had to defend yourself, and definitely the kids that were in your room. But again, this isn't in order. It's just the way that they talk about it. So it's kind of options based. Wherever you are, that's going to depend on what you're going to do when this happens. If I'm far away from it, right? If it was in the parking lot and I'm in the back of the building, I'm probably going to get the heck out of there. Okay, but if I'm right next to it, maybe I have to do something. There's not time for me to lock my door and get inside somewhere and do all that stuff. So it's going to kind of depend on where it's happening as well. So I also want to talk about how you guys call 911, and this is really important for anywhere really. So if there was an emergency happening here, or anywhere that you were, the best thing that I tell people is to call 911 from a phone that is plugged into your building, okay? And the reason is, there's two reasons for this. The first is, it goes straight to our police headquarters downtown, where the dispatchers are. And they can start sending the police here. The other thing is, it shows the address of this building on Via Fiesta, okay? If you guys call from your cell phones, it's not one, there's a chance that it may not go to the police department. It might go to the sheriff's department, who is also very close to us, or to the highway patrol. So there's no real way of knowing for sure. And the other thing is, it's not going to show your address wherever you are. So I've talked to buildings like Qualcomm. tell Qualcomm, you can't call me and say, something's happening at Qualcomm, we need the police. Okay, well there's 100 buildings, that's not any good. I need to know like what your address is here. So whether you guys and gals, wrote it on something in your room, or are there phones in your room? I can't recall. No, so you may potentially call from your cell phone, and I'm not going to put anybody on the spot by asking them if they know randomly picking somebody and saying what's the address here. But that would be important. And I'll be honest, even if you knew it right now, whether you would remember it when something really bad is happening, I mean, something very, very stressful, is unlikely. I mean, even, and that's why we train our police officers for stress. It's called stress inoculation. So they're prepared for something like that. But most people, and they wouldn't have any reason to, be involved in stuff like that. Now it's really, really stressful. I can't remember what the address of this place is. I'm in a mosque, and I'm up. Okay, well, which one are you at? And we would have to ask you this information. So if you guys were able to write that down on somewhere, maybe put it on the wall or the address, or just somewhere where you could glance at it if you had to, and look and know where you guys are. So you guys call the police. They're going to ask you, what's going on. So certainly getting yourself safe is the first thing. I wouldn't expect you to call right away, right? You're going to be able to call when you can. So, let's say you were working and you saw something maybe on the cameras. The doors were all locked up and you saw something on the cameras outside for some reason. So maybe you would call 911, hey, this is what's going on. Getting that information, the police would start coming. Okay, but most importantly is keeping yourself safe. So whether that's getting out and calling from, down in the ditch down there, or over at the school where you guys have run away. And that's kind of another thing especially for the teachers to think about is, if we got all the kids out, we're tossing them out the window, where are they going to go? Okay, so, we're not in the city here where they're going to run into, out into a really, really busy road. They might run out into the neighborhood, but I would be honest, that would be fine, right? I mean, this isn't really a sketchy area where we really worry about them. I would be very comfortable with saying, I mean, we can track them down, as opposed to having them be here where something bad is happening. But that would be something for you guys to think about. So maybe, hey, you tell the kids, hey, when you run out, run over to whatever school that is across the way, or run over to that school, or just run away, okay? And then we will track you down wherever you are, but getting away from here, or getting away from wherever that bad is really important. We go to a lot of schools where they have facilities like yours, where maybe you guys have them out on the, do you guys ever take them outside on the playground or anything? Okay, so there's another thought, right? What if something happened out there? Where would you guys go? So same sort of thing, having a plan. Hey kids, if something happens, we're all going to play the fastest game of follow the leader, and we're going to run down the road then, okay, whatever the case might be, but getting away from that. So we also talk about, and I'll talk about it in another slide here, but is the notification process. Like, let's say you guys don't maybe see or hear, say somebody sees someone coming who looks like they're going to do harm, okay, but it hasn't actually happened yet, so you're not hearing anything. How is everyone going to find out that is occurring or about to occur? So, maybe for those of you who are entrusted with the children, I talk a lot about having, if you've ever seen those like boat air horns, they look like a little can, and you push them down, there's a really loud noise that goes along with them. So having something like that, hey kids, if we push this, if you hear that, and that's all we use it for. It's not for like, this is also the lunch bell, and it's also, get your snacks, like that's the only thing. So if they hear that, and we're outside, they need to, whatever you have told them, they're going to stop and take a knee or go to the fence or whatever. They need to listen to you guys and know that is serious. So the other thing I talk about, if we do something like that, is to practice with it. So take them out and say, hey, we're going to practice with it, because kids are noisy, right? They're out there playing. I don't know how far away you guys might be from them. But hey, go out and play and practice, and then in a couple minutes, I'm going to toot the horn. This is only a drill, but I want to make sure you guys can hear it. Okay, so whatever the range, the farthest range you guys would be away from them, make sure that they can hear that horn, so they, so you know that they would get that message. And that is kind of a cheap way that, I mean, we could have those around, and if anybody saw something and they hit that, hey, if we hear that air horn, something is happening or is about to happen. The best case at businesses, and I'm going to speak this week to a larger group of business folks. We talk about if there was a way to page everybody, overhead page, like some places you can pick up the phone and dial star or something and make an announcement. Well, I don't think that's the case here, right? Okay, so, and really most of the places I go, it is not, but that would be the best bet. So anybody here could pick up that phone and say, hey, I see something bad happening in the parking lot or behind us or wherever, and let everyone know. I don't know right now if there is any sort of mass notification system for you guys.
basically where we might all on our phones over there, but we all subscribe to an app where anybody can send messages to everybody. Okay, so, and it's not necessarily like for something bad, but let's say there was a gas leak here, and we had to say, hey, nobody come here because we can't get inside for whatever reason. But a lot of it might too be, so let's say we had all run off, right, and I want to find out, is this person safe? I can get them on my app and find out, and they can respond. And there's a bunch of them out there. I don't endorse or sell any of them, but just, even if it was just a mass text where we all had our cell phones, and we had a big text group where we could send messages to each other. And maybe it would be, some people are in charge of different groups, like I'm in charge of the teachers, okay, so whoever's in charge is going to send a message to the people in charge, and then I'm going to check my employees or something. But just some way that we could, get information passed around to us, especially maybe after it had happened, let everybody know, too, like where is everybody? Have we accounted for everybody? Is everybody still in the building? Anything like that. And then, you guys would have to kind of train and practice, and like it says in here, involve everybody. Everybody here has an idea about what they think would be a good idea. So, sit down and talk about, hey, what would be our plan? What could we do? How can we make it better? I mean, no place that I've been in San Diego is perfect, and I've been to a lot of places. Some are pretty good, but honestly, even a police station, something can happen there, and that would be a problem. So. I know because I've been here before. They're working on improving some things around here. It's not going to become a dome, an impenetrable dome around here where nobody can get inside. But we're just trying to make it a little bit safer. And again, it's very unlikely something would happen, but we're just talking about it beforehand, so it's not the first time you've ever heard of it. So we talked about notifications, and again, how is everybody going to find out? I understand that there may or may not be security guards coming, so that's going to be a conversation that you would want to have also with them. Is what is expected of them? What do they expect of you? How are they going to notify you guys? Vice versa, all the stuff that goes along with that. So definitely having that conversation with them about what's expected and where they will be, if they're going to be roving or a fixed point or however that goes. So we talked a lot about armed versus unarmed security, and so it's just whatever you guys end up deciding. There's pros and cons on both sides. If I would say if you ask me, and I don't know if you are or not, but I'm gonna say anyway. As far as if it's an armed security guard, they really should be in some sort of uniform. I was at a house of worship the other day, and they said they were going to have one of their people that go there. Who happened to be in the military before, be armed and before the services began. And I said, okay, what is that person going to be wearing? And they said he's going to have on black pants and a black shirt. And I said, well, okay, except here's the problem. If something happens and our police get there and we see a guy who's just wearing a black pants and a black shirt with a gun, that's not going to do very well for that person. Okay, there's no way to identify them as a good guy. So, a uniform is, we would recommend, just because the bad things that can happen. And we've seen that. It's just, there's not a lot of us time for us to be like, excuse me, sir, are you here part of the service or are you a bad guy, right? We don't have that sort of time. So, definitely options. And then a big one is something that we call situational awareness. And it's not just for the security guards, but it's for everybody here. It's for everybody, not that we're being paranoid, but we're a little paranoid, okay? If you guys ever go eat with a policeman, we never like to sit where we can't see the doors, because we're like, someone's going to come in, something's going to happen. So it's really about being aware. Yes, sir?
I have a question. Do you have any cases in history where an armed guard has helped?
Yes, there are lots of cases where armed people have helped. From what I understand, I haven't got the full report, but that school shooting in Colorado that happened this past week, there was an armed security guard there. But I mean, there's a lot on both sides for that. I mean, even there was and I tell the story about there was a man named Joseph Wilcox in Nevada. So 2 police officers were killed by two suspects. There was a man and a woman, and those 2 suspects went into a Walmart, and the male suspect started shooting off his gun, and a citizen who was armed there saw that and went up to try to stop the male suspect, and the female suspect shot and killed that guy. And he was trying to do his best. So there are times it's just, and there were 2 suspects in that case. A lot of people ask me, well, what if we evacuate and there's somebody else? Okay, that's really very, very rare. It's usually only 1 suspect. That one this past week in Colorado was kind of an anomaly. But yes, it has happened. I don't know the full details of the Poway one, but obviously there was a firearm there in some way, shape, or form. But again, it's a lot of responsibility, even for a police officer, to have our firearms. And then the other thing to be thinking about, and I don't know, there's lots of law enforcement officers who can be armed. So, federal agents who don't wear uniforms, or treasury people, or lots of things. So I don't know if any of those folks come here, or if you know any of them. That might be a discussion to have with them, if you know any of them. Like, what if something were to happen? How are the police going to know it's you, or how are we going to know it's you? I mean, if they don't come very often, let's say, and now we see somebody who has a gun, and we don't know that they're actually a good guy, and something bad happens to them. So that is one long answer to yes, there have been times when people have those. Let's see. Okay, so another thing that we talk about is kind of access control, and that is, and I'm becoming an expert in theology here lately because I've been to synagogues, I've been to mosques, I've been to Catholic churches, so I'm learning about everyone's religion. But typically what we say is, if once services start, however you guys do it, access to here really needs to be controlled only through one place. So people just can't come, oh, I'm late, I'm going to come and I'm Catholic, so at our Mass, people come in willy-nilly, any door, I'm late, they get there whenever. Everybody has to come through one door, okay? So that way it's easy for us to keep an eye, right? It's easier for me to just watch one door where I know people are going to be coming inside than have to worry that people can come in anywhere here. I was at another mosque, and they had a bunch of entries that they allow people to come in. So we had this conversation too, making sure that there's only a few entries that it happens on. And the other thing is, if you don't end up having security guards, really what you have to have is some people that are watching, okay? We can't have everybody praying at the same time, because that leaves us vulnerable, right? Then nobody is looking out. So somebody has to be tasked, and whether that job rotates or however that transpires, somebody needs to be kind of watching out outside. That also goes for, we had a conversation when I came about, apparently it gets pretty full here, and there are sometimes people outside praying out there. So one other concern, and it's not a big concern, but it's certainly something to think about, is if someone tried to assault people with a vehicle. Okay, it's called vehicle ramming, and we've seen it. Maybe I can't get a firearm, but I can easily drive a car, and they want to drive up here. So we talked about putting some sort of physical barriers out there, and they don't have to be those ugly poles that you see at places, okay? It could be some nice planter boxes just full of plants, and very heavy ones that would stop a vehicle if it were coming. Now, the most likely place I would say is probably here at the handicap spaces, but I understand that there are typically cars parked in those spaces, but there is still the area between that somebody might squeeze through. So again, that's where somebody needs to be watching and just kind of looking out, and if they were to see something coming, they could let everybody know, as opposed to everybody looking the other way and being surprised when it actually happens. So I know that's something that they're also looking into. Again, it doesn't have to be those ugly metal poles that look terrible. You can make it, look nice around here, and it's not the only thing. So cameras are a nicety, but the problem with those, really they're more retroactive, right? You come here and somebody has broken a window, or somebody has spray painted or something like that. It's not super useful, like watching it, to see it. I mean, you have to see it, right? I mean, somebody would have to be sitting there constantly watching those cameras in a camera room, and that's really not going to happen, very much. So the cameras are more like, again, if something were to have happened here, we come back on Monday, we're like, okay, hey, something happened wherever, we can look at the cameras. If this were a bigger place, we talk about having cameras. Our police officers going to those rooms where the cameras are to see, with an employee, to see if we can see the bad guy, okay? And we have to have an employee, because I don't know what I'm looking at, right? Oh, that's the women's, or that wouldn't make any sense. That's, the office on the 4th floor. Okay, well, I don't know by looking at that's the case, because I'm not familiar with their building. So an employee would have to be there. But here, cameras really aren't very feasible for something like this. Again, for a crime that happened, we're trying to identify the perpetrator, but that would be useful. We talked about these physical barriers there. And again, they don't have to be ugly poles like we see out there. They can be something, nice looking. So something else that I talk about wherever I go is something called the 8 signs of terrorism. Okay, so obviously there are people out there who don't like our way of life, and they want to harm us wherever that may be. It typically doesn't, they don't just wake up in the morning today and they're like, oh, today I'm going to go do something. Okay, there are indicators that people see before they happen. Okay, and these are 8 of them, and I'll talk about some of the important ones. So the first one is surveillance. So you guys, maybe here you see somebody, so we get calls at the airport all the time of somebody taking pictures of airplanes. and we go down there and they just like taking pictures of airplanes. But now somebody is in your parking lot and they're taking pictures of the building or of the doors or the entrances, like weird things. Like why would someone be taking pictures of stuff like that? It wouldn't make any sense. Elicitation is another one. They're trying to get information. So they're calling, they say, hey, so this didn't happen, but here in San Diego, there's an all-girls school called OLP. I told them, if someone were to call and say, I want to send my daughter there, you guys have cameras or security or guards, right? We don't give out information over the phone. You come in and then we can talk about it. Same thing, hey, I want to come here, but I'm concerned, what security measures do you have in place? Well, come in and we can talk about it, but we're not saying over the phone, because that's what they're trying to find out. A really, really big one is another one called testing of security. People trying to see where they can get in. Okay, so I would imagine this is a pretty tight-knit community up here. You would know if someone was walking around your building that nobody had ever seen before. But that would be important because what people try to do is they'll walk around and try a door and see, can they get inside here? Okay, with businesses, there's something called tailgating. So tailgating is that let's say we have a key card that opens the door. And I open the door and I let myself in, and somebody says, oh, hey, I forgot my key. I'm sorry, it's at home. Can you hold the door for me? And I let that person inside, and now I've let somebody inside who wants to harm us. Maybe he was fired, and I don't know about that. So that is very important that, one, you make sure that if you guys, I don't think that's the case here, but if you make sure you know who's coming inside. But definitely, if you see people walking around that you don't know, we don't have to call the police immediately, but hey, can I help you? Maybe they're just lost, or maybe they want to come here. But there's always a chance that they're walking around trying to see where they can go without anybody saying anything to them, which is also likely. Funding. So we see folks that it wouldn't pertain here very much, but send money to people who want to do bad things. Supplies. So that's another one. Again, not pertinent really to here. But it's very easy, unfortunately, to make a bomb. Okay, you can go on the internet and any kid can do it. And there's places that sell items. So, for example, beauty supply stores that sell hydrogen peroxide. If somebody went there and wanted to buy all their hydrogen peroxide, they're not trying to bleach 40 people's hair. They're probably trying to make an explosive device. Okay, so we would say that would be strange, and we want someone to say something about that. And I will talk about how to report something if you were to see it here in a minute. Couple last few, impersonation, either in person or over the phone. And then when we get down to these last couple, which are called rehearsal and deployment, it's getting kind of late in the cycle. But let's say you saw some of these things. You saw somebody out there taking pictures. You thought that was kind of weird. Maybe you got a picture of them with your phone. You're like, what the heck can I do with that? Who do I even tell? So there's a couple ways you can report it. You can call our Northwestern station. Probably not the most efficient way. So you can go online, all right? And there's a better way to do this in a second on your phones. But so this is the Law Enforcement Coordination Center. And what they are is a group of law enforcement officers and fire and military, and they get information sent to them from around the county, okay? So you would go to this website, and if you look it up on your computer, it's going to say that. And it says over here, it says submit a SAR. And a SAR is a suspicious activity report, okay? So you guys are private sector, so you would click on that button, and it goes to a screen. It goes to another screen where there are tabs, and you basically just fill in the information, okay? If you've taken a picture, you can attach it. You send it right off to these people. The other way would be on your phones, okay? And everybody and their brother has a phone now, so if you went to this website here, it's going to populate in almost the same way. So these big tabs pop up. So the first tab is a threat at a school. So let's say your child or somebody you knew saw or heard something about Westview High School. They saw something on Instagram. You would do that. But for us, some weirdo taking pictures, you would click on that button there. It goes to a screen that looks like this. You can, again, put all your information in. It asks to make sure you're not a robot at the bottom. You send that information off. It goes right to some detectives who get it right away. I would say please report things, anything that you see, regardless of how innocuous it might seem. And I say that because people tell me all the time, it's like a crash on the freeway. Somebody else is going to call. Well, if everybody says that, then no one's going to call, right? So please, plus that might be happening here, it might be happening at another place, and they can put that little puzzle together and figure out what's going on. So please report things. I was at a mall last week, and they said, well, we had two guys in here, and they were pushing around a baby stroller with a fake baby inside it and a camera. Does that seem suspicious? I said, yes, that seems very suspicious. Why would you be doing that? That's the kind of stuff we need to know about. So, it's not for like, there's a transient in the bushes or somebody spray painted something. These are for kind of like things that I talked about. So the other thing that I would tell you guys, and it's kind of bad to have to talk about, but if something happened wherever you guys are and the police arrive, When we first get there, the police are not going to stop and help anybody who is hurt. Okay, we have to go stop the people that are doing the bad things. Because if I stop and help one person who is hurt and 10 more people get hurt, then that's not good. Okay, so we're gonna bypass everyone that's injured and go try to stop them. Now, after that has happened, we will help people that are injured. We have medical bags in our cars. We will work with the fire department to help people. But in the meantime, there's something else that I always talk about, and it's a program called Stop the Bleed. I don't know if anyone has heard of Stop the Bleed. Stop the Bleed is a program. They're called bleeding control kits in public spaces. These pictures here are from the airport. So if you guys go to the airport anytime soon, or the convention center, or Kaiser Hospital, or UCSD, these boxes are on the wall. Now, this is the AED machine, but inside there are kits very similar to these here, okay? And what are inside these kits are, and I guess I should back up, and I always forget this. This isn't just for somebody crashes a car in your building, or blows it up, or does something like that. This could be for someone gets hit by a car in the parking lot, or somebody gets cut really bad by glass here, or they're working with a saw in the back and they cut their leg. Okay, so what this class teaches you, and I'll show you how you can get the training. It teaches people mostly how to use what's called a tourniquet. Okay, so they teach you how to put it on yourself and how to put it on other people. So if something were to have happened, and if you were to watch the video here, they say, you should have these things in your car or in your home. So you guys could take that person, put the tourniquet on them. There's gloves inside here. There's gauze, everything to stop a serious wound. So if you were interested, you would go to this website. It's bleedingcontrol.org. You could go to find a class. The classes are free. I'm sure they would come here and give you guys one if you were interested. It takes less than an hour. The classes are free. Buying this stuff, there's of course a cost associated. I mean, in a perfect world, you would have these, again, in your home, in your car. There would be one in every classroom. And again, they teach you how to put these on yourself and other people. And we have saved a lot of lives in San Diego, both law enforcement and civilian, with these tourniquets. It's a really good thing. Okay. So what questions? You guys have questions about any of this stuff, or this place in particular? Now is our time. Yes, ma'am.
For the SAR report that you
Yes.
mentioned, is there any kind of statute of limitations on how far back you can report?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I would definitely send it in, and if they, say it's too long ago or whatever. I mean, I would say no. So definitely send it in. We that same mall that said that, another mall had a guy sitting in the food court with a ski mask on, and he's just sitting there. He's not doing anything, but he's scaring the holy moly out of everybody, right? So he's just sitting there. So they followed him out. They got a picture of his license plate. They sent that in, and the police said, okay, yeah, we know who he is. We've seen him, but he's just a little off. There's nothing to worry about. Okay, so that at least, right, makes everybody feel better. They know who he is and not, well, he left, and I don't know, is that guy going to come back, and do we have to worry about him? So, again, a long answer to no, I would go ahead and submit it. Yes?
What mall is this?
I'd rather not say. I don't want to get him in trouble. With the guy with the mask? The guy with the mask was in either Mission or Fashion Valley. I can't recall which one. So, any other questions about this or in general? Not like, no questions about scooters. Everybody hates the scooters, but I can't answer those. Yes, ma'am.
I thought like if there's an active shooter outside, I would bring all the kids inside and lock all the doors. But you're saying you can tell them to just run.
Well, so it's going to depend. I mean, and that's the thing. Even schools these days, it's called options based. So it's going to be up. You're going to know the best thing of what to do with them by where you are. The problem is, if you can get them inside and it's safe, but some of these rooms, right, they have that big glass window. That may not be the safest place to go. So I don't know what you're going to do. I would say if you can get away, again, like, hey, I don't know how many kids you have cast with. I mean, I know some people have like 20 or 30 kids, and that's a lot. But if maybe it's 10 or 12, and again, they're able to, hey, let's run as quick as we can. We're going to run down to the wall, and then we're going to run to wherever. But I can't tell you. I would say again, if it's safe to get inside someplace, you can get. I don't know if a bathroom door is locked, or you can find an office where that works. But being outside, it may be easier to go away from danger than try to go to it. So, I'm sorry. There's a question over. Yes, sir.
So, in case of an emergency, would you recommend actually putting the fire alarm?
Great question. Thank you for bringing that up. No is the answer. So he asked, in case of an emergency, do we recommend pulling the fire alarm? So the problem with the fire alarm is twofold, and we saw this in the Florida school shooting a number of, maybe a year ago, is that typically when we pull a fire alarm, everybody goes to a predetermined spot. Okay, so hey, if we pull the fire alarm, we all know we're going to go out to the parking lot. Well, the problem can be if a person pulls the fire alarm and they know that, they know we're all gonna go to the parking lot, and then everybody is standing there. So I almost tell places, you know what, if you guys have fire alarm drills, I would recommend that we all go to different places, okay? So maybe the officer's gonna go out there, and the kids are gonna go over there, and some kids are gonna go over there. And I hate to say it so we're less of a target, but it's so we're less of a target. And the other thing about that is I'm not gonna say that somebody wouldn't pull the fire alarm, but if you've ever been in a building where it's pulled, it's super loud, there's like a piercing, it's piercing, hard to hear, that would make it difficult for our folks. And depending, I don't know, strobes or whatever, but the biggest thing is people usually they all come out, right, when the fire alarm goes off, and we don't necessarily want that depending on where it's happening. I'm sorry, sir, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question about the SAR,
Yes, sir.
what kind of things are reportable? And then, what information do you need to know? Because a couple of people, approached me and said, well, we saw this car come in and just stop next to the parking lot and not really come and park.
Sure.
So they were suspicious what's going on. And then somebody else said, well, there was this guy in the parking lot with a hoodie on, he was just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
So are those things reportable? And
Well,
what should we-
so I would say if you guys see, if there was somebody sitting in your parking lot with a hoodie on, obviously don't approach them. If you're able to call the police, so something like that, you can call the police, call 911, hey, we're here, this is what's going on. And I'll apologize if anybody here has ever called our non-emergency number for anything. You're probably still waiting to get through, right? It's very inefficient, and I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. So, but if it's somebody actually sitting here, now, let's say a car pulls in, and right, there's a million reasons why, this isn't I wanted to go to the houses over here, or wrong school, or maybe not. So definitely, you can report that stuff. If you were to go to that website later, there's probably 40 different boxes you can check. So if there's any doubt, I would say report it, and if they can't investigate it, somebody asked me about some things related to children the other day. And I said, well, if they can't, if it doesn't pertain to that, they will send it to the people. They're not going to be like, oh, no, delete it. It's out, that's something we can't do. So they're very good over there. I know them very well. They do very good work. So definitely. Yes, sir.
If we have a security guard, is it normal for them to engage a suspicious person themselves?
Is it normal, or would we recommend? So I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend that because they're not police officers, right? Honestly, they don't, and I feel bad for, I gave training to those folks downtown who ride around on the bikes and talk to the homeless. They have no police powers, but they're in these uniforms. They got to really use their gift of gab. So I would say no. I wouldn't approach people, even as a